on the field, court or ice. CWall. You are on the couch. From DG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, CWall. Delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from the hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's CWall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am. Through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. CWall and we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington football team update, and I am your host, CWall. How is everyone doing? We have so much to cover. I had to change a few things a bit because there's some breaking news that we have to make sure gets shared with you all. And we got to stay on top of that. And I see so many of the Washington football team fans checking in. We definitely have to kind of do our housekeeping rules, right? If you have checked into the conversation, if you are watching, we need you to click the like or love button so that we know you are here. You have to absolutely click the like or love button so that we know that you are watching. Then we also need you to share this show with your, I think it's still safe to say, Washington football team loving family and friends. As CWall team member Joy has here, make sure you tag a friend to join the conversation. So lots to discuss per always. Make sure you all are saying hello to each other. Like I said, CWall team member Joy is on. I'm sure my mama is on somewhere. Say hello to Mama Waller. I see Ron Blackwell checking in, Tina Moore, Damon, Daryl, Cameron Mingo, among others. So make sure you all are high-fiving and saying what's up to each other as well. Because there's so much to discuss, we're going to do things a little bit different this evening. We're going to go ahead and just acknowledge our sponsors. So let's go ahead and acknowledge one of our sponsors here, and Roof Max. Checking out and saying what's up to Roof Max, you all. Roof Max adds years of life to your current roof and saves you thousands of dollars. Only a fraction of the cost of a roof replacement. Minority owned and operated business servicing the DMV. Go to getroofmax.com. I completely lost you all. This is the kind of day it's going, you all. This is the kind of day that is happening right now because I completely just was like, where did everybody go? Check in and let me know if you all are still seeing me. That is the joys right here of live television. So if you all can still see and hear me, please check in. Please check in because that was kind of funny. I was like, wait, what just happened? All right, let's switch over so you all can see the rest of our advertisers really quick. First up, Modern-ish. And we'll also give some airtime to our next advertiser, Uplift Properties. All right. I think everybody is back, including myself. So, this is just the kind of day that it has been. So, with that being said, I'm sure you all have heard before we get into this past week's game in Washington's loss to the rival Dallas Cowboys, let's get into what is currently happening with the team. The team is, in fact, experiencing a COVID outbreak. Okay. News of the first positive case on the team came out last Wednesday with Montez Sweat. But what is sharing on the screen right now is the current Washington football team COVID list since last Wednesday. So if you can take a look here, this is important. This is important. Because we all know how this virus operates. And that you may have tested negative today and may still come up positive tomorrow or later in the week. This is quite important. Take a look at this list. Quite a few players on the defensive line. This is a lot. This is a lot right here, you all. Also, to mention what has since come out also is that a tier 3 Washington staffer has tested positive for the Omicron variant. So as you can see here from Tom Pelissero, a tier 3 staffer with the Washington football team tested positive for the Omicron variant. This is the first known case of that variant in the NFL. You all may have heard that 36 NFL players went on COVID reserve list. I think now that number is up to 37. Since this information has come out, now the NFL and the NFLPA has made it a requirement for staffers, not players, but for staffers fully vaccinated to get the booster shot by December the 27th. Also wanted to share here, just for your knowledge, some information on what does it mean from a tier 3 perspective. What does that mean? So these are individuals who perform essential facilities, stadium, or event services, but do not require close contact with tier 1 individuals. So this is not a staffer that was in football operations, okay? But it's still important, very, very important to note, because before this information came out, it was also shared that Washington football had kind of upped the ante, if you will, and started with enhanced protocols. So enhanced protocols on site means regardless of your vaccination status, you must wear your mask indoors. You must wear your mask indoors. Definitely social distancing. Absolutely, where meetings can be virtual, everyone is transferred to virtual. Media was notified this evening. Do not come on site. Everyone will be virtual until further notice. This is important. This is absolutely important. And please make sure you all are just paying attention to this, because the reality is this: we are still in a pandemic. Absolutely still in a pandemic. It is paramount to stay safe, wear your mask. This thing is not over. It's going through right now, experiencing it with the Washington football team. And this is something that can also be, more could come out, right? From a player perspective, if the Washington football team is up to 9 players currently, then there have to imagine what if there's more players added to the list, throughout the week. Something to keep our eyes on, and just let's not lose sight of keep everyone in prayer. Yes, we're always thinking about what about the games and what about this, that, and the third? But first, from a human perspective, let's not forget that these are lives being impacted. These are colleagues being impacted. So we want to pray for the players, pray for their families, and ensure that folks are just trying to do their part in staying safe and doing what's right for themselves, their family, and the community. So, a lot to unpack because this is absolutely impacting a player. A lot of folks, Jonathan Allen was one that and early on was open about him being vaccinated. So we all know that whether or not you are fully vaccinated or not, this is something that can still hit your household. So please, 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 everybody, stay as safe as you possibly can. Okay. And let's see what happens. I think the team was still trying to process all of the injuries. Team was processing in real time from Saturday to Sunday, additional players that had to be out for the game. Now adding 4 more players to the list, a staffer. This is big news. So we'll keep our eyes on it. And I see a few Washington football team fans steadily checking in. So if you are checking in, just reminder of the housekeeping rules. Make sure you are clicking like or love on the show so we can make sure that we know that you're here and acknowledge you, say hello, shout you out on one of your great comments as we continue on with the conversation. All right. Had to get through that breaking news first. And because we are doing this absolutely live, you all know how we do. There could be more information that comes out, you know that. And we're just going to try to keep up with as much of it as we can because things are changing rapidly. So, all right, let's talk about the game. So, now let's get into the regularly scheduled part of the show in which we start out talking about the previous week's game, playing a game called What's Your One Word? What is your one word? So I'm going to give you a moment to drop in the chat in a discussion on what's your one word for the Washington football team's loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Drop your one word in the chat. Drop your one word. Drop your one word. I'm seeing them come through. Seeing them all come through. See, embarrassed. Shaking my head. Let me see. Ugly. Disappointing. Sad. Got beat. Disappointed. Quite a few disappointments. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. But let's talk through a few things here. Want to get into some conversation, and I'm looking here at some of my notes because some are, we have them tracking, and let's talk about this. Because as you all know, this is getting into the stretch of the NFC East games. And I had shared with you all one of the concerns that I had was about Dallas's defense. That's what I was concerned about. Dallas defense won that game. Now, let's be clear about something. The offense didn't put up much of a fight in the beginning, right? Making it easier. But I am also a person that does not mind giving credit where it is due. With Dallas defense, I can't say enough about Micah Parsons, linebacker, um, rookie linebacker that just shows the essence of what a skilled linebacker can bring to your team. Immediate impact player. Micah Parsons could not be stopped at all. Absolutely no answer from Micah Parsons. Um, Everyone knows about Trayvon Diggs, and Trayvon has had a good time. You know, he's doing well in his second season. I definitely, and I hope I don't forget this point in the notes, but I want to talk about that a bit. But when you have a player, when you have a Micah Parsons, when you have a Trayvon Diggs that are consistent, that and when your offense is off, just flat out bad, that is what you get. That is what you get. Now, here's what I would say about Dallas's offense. Dallas's offense is not that good at all. They're not as scary as I thought. Because here's the reality. Dak made some mistakes. Maybe he's still a little hurt. Ezekiel Elliott is not the Ezekiel Elliott from before. That's not him. That ain't that guy that was running out there the other day. That's not the all of the makings of being an issue for the Washington football team, given the offensive line being as beat up as they are. Fact of the matter is, that was it was just a bad matchup for a Washington football team offensive line that is so depleted. This is not an excuse. This is a fact. The team is on their fourth center. Brandon Sheriff is holding on by a thread. Seriously. And I got to say this about Taylor Heinicke. This was the Taylor Heinicke that I feared would return. The Taylor Heinicke that just is not going to get it done with his arm. A Taylor Heinicke that is trying to make plays happen and just forcing plays, which then results in him, making bad decisions and then almost getting Terry McLaurin killed. And that's essentially what happened now that we all know that Terry McLaurin is in concussion protocol. Want to share this with you all right here. I want to share this. My colleague, Nikki Jabvala from the Washington Post, shared this on her Twitter page. So the first 4 lines of this are from the 4 previous games. Right? That last line is the game against Dallas. And the reality is, if you have 4 turnovers, technically, you shouldn't win that game anyway. If you have 4 turnovers, you should not win that game anyway, point blank, period. But when you are giving away opportunities like that, where your opponent scores 18 points, the clear difference here is the turnovers. You can't win football games like that. You can't win football games like that. You are not, you're fighting yourself. You're beating yourself at this point when you're playing like that. There's no hope. Let me also say this. It's hard to beat a team when you got your 3rd and 4th stringers out there. Okay? Everybody knows this next man. Now, we got it. We get it. That's good. But this team, and this is something to be watching, now that the team is going through this COVID outbreak, your 3rd and 4th stringers, you just cannot expect the team to get it done and bring in solid wins like that. It's just not how it goes. Also want to mention this. I said on the show a few weeks ago, when is everybody going to figure out what Scott Turner is doing? Right? The way that the control of the football and the game management style, that wasn't going to last too long. you all. It just wasn't. And it lasted way longer than I thought. It lasted way longer than I anticipated because it lasted for 4 weeks, 4 wins. The notion of winning out, if you win out in the regular season, guaranteed a loss is coming. It has been what, like forever maybe, since a team has won out through the regular season and then proceeded to continue to win out. When I say win out, I'm talking about Super Bowl. This is the National Football League. When we talking professional sports, that is just not happening. Somebody is going to come down your street and they're going to have your number and they're going to know what it is. They're going to know. So it lasted for a month, 4 whole weeks. That was good. It was a good run. But Taylor Heineke, the pressure, again, Brandon Sheriff holding on by a thread, centers trickling in and out. You can't do but so much when you're dealing in that situation. Now, I will say this, absolutely will say this. Even in, and I see Calvin's comment, when we're talking about the number of games that the Washington football team had remaining, they're not going out. Not when you're dealing with a team that's still depleted like Washington football. We can all dream, but that's not realistic. I'm a comment here to see and acknowledge some of you all's comments here where Dallas had 10 days to prepare. Now, here's the thing. That can go one way or another because we saw the Raiders had the same amount of time. Washington was able to pull out the W against the Raiders. Remember, the Raiders hadn't played since Thanksgiving. That didn't work out. And, that wasn't going to work out for the next team. People are watching. You got film. Folks know who you are. They know who you are. My challenge, I think I saw a comment come through about Scott Turner. My challenge with the team and Scott Turner was that once they knew what they were doing previously, also when they had a healthy J.D. McKissick who was going to be out, right? That's not going to work. If you have to rely on Antonio Gibson, can we talk about Antonio Gibson and fumbling this football? Y'all have heard me complain and talk about him fumbling the football. You cannot have a run game that is centered and focused on Antonio Gibson because he cannot be trusted with the football. And the reason being is because he is still learning how to be a running back. Remember, he is a receiver. He's a receiver. He's still trying to learn that. But again, it goes back to something that I've been sharing on the show for a while now. And that is, you watch the film. If we all know you can punch the ball out, of course other teams are going to do it. I've mentioned this time and time again. Yes, absolutely. Hey, I'm going to give him a shout out because he's the NFC rushing leader. Beautiful. Perfect. All right. Right? But I cannot trust you hold on to that football. And I'm seeing comments rolling in because the reality is this, because J.D. McKissick is out and because there's not guaranteed veteran status knowledge at that position, the team has to keep playing Gibson. Got to keep playing him because who else you going to put there? Right? It's a lot to be thought about, but I also want to be very clear about something as well, because I've heard, well, does this mean that the team has been exposed or anything like that? I don't think it's necessarily about exposure. It's just about being real and objective about where you are as a team. You're depleted. You're dealing with a lot of injuries. Now this team is going into Philadelphia with a COVID outbreak, so you're going to be depleted even further, right? This is going to be tough when you're not dealing with your starters. It is hard when you can't go one-on-one when you got your third and fourth string. That's just kind of is what that is, y'all. It is absolutely what that is. Now, I absolutely want to mention this in terms of Trayvon Diggs, right? And Terry McLaurin now has his first no catch game of his NFL career. And I'm sure that is tough. That is a tough pill for him to swallow. But that was also something that we talked about on this show, which was the way that Taylor throws the football. It's going to get Terry hurt. Terry's going to get hurt. And Terry got hurt, right? He's in concussion protocol now. Listen, I don't know. Now, I do got to shout out Cam Sims, because I don't know if you checked out Cam Sims' press conference, but Cam Sims was adamant, said he's been watching Trayvon. He's been watching him. You know, Trayvon leading the league in picks. He's been watching him. So he knew how he was going to run that route, and said he already knew when he scored him that he had him. So yeah, okay, it may appear or it may feel like Trayvon had Terry locked down, but at the same token, it wasn't like Taylor Heineke was doing anybody any favors based on his play. So listen, Cam know Trey, right? They know each other, familiar with each other's work. So I was feeling that whole thing, because I was like, hey, Trayvon got beat that time. Nobody saying nothing about that, but that's okay. All right, that's cool. So I'm looking at my notes here, and hey, listen, did I predict a Washington win? No, I did not, because you start to see that the offensive line is wearing down, and it was just a horrible matchup for this O-line, already depleted, against a tough Dallas defense. Now, again, Dallas offense is not all that scary, though. I was like, they don't. And hey, everybody, go ahead and check in and hit the like and love button and say the Washington football team did scare the Dallas Cowboys for a second there, because here's the reality. This is how you know they let their foot off the gas. It's 3 minutes left in the game, and Washington still had an opportunity to win. That lets you know the offense wasn't all like that. The offense only scored 3 points in the second half. So even though the defense was depleted a bit at defensive line, shout out to them for holding them to only 3 points in that second half. Better quarterback play on the Washington football team, offensive side of the ball, and that game is completely different. The outcome is different. Certainly. Better quarterback play, completely different football game. But it was what it was. 4 turnovers. You shouldn't even win that game. You don't even deserve to win that game when you got 4 turnovers. Yeah, I said it. You don't even deserve to win it. Okay? Letting your opponent score 18 points on you in the first half. Come on. You can't do that. Off of your mistake. You missed it. Absolutely missed it. You all, we have come to the close of another episode of Coaching from the Couch, the Washington football team update. Make sure you all are sharing this show with your Washington football team loving family and friends, and tuning in on Bowie Television every single Friday, 1:30 and 2 for both Coaching from the Couch shows. And we're going to keep our eyes and ears open for all things Washington football. Absolutely have to keep our eyes open to see what happens with this COVID situation. Very, very, very important. Okay, you all? Thank you so much for tuning in, as you always do. And listen, you guys, I will see you all again soon.
You're not on the field, court, or ice. CWall, you're on the couch. From PG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, CWall, delivering coverage for all DC sports teams.